Welcome to another edition of Enrichment with the Gifted Guy. What we're going to be learning about today is how to write a proper essay. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, I've written lots of essays. I know how to do this already. I don't need this help. Uh, but I would stand to reckon that a lot of the strategies that are shared in this video are going to really help you to make your essays even better than they already are. And so this will help you to break it down and to make sure that you are getting the grade the best grade that is possible for you. So the first thing you need to do when you get an essay question, and this seems obvious, but read the question first. What I mean by read the question first is it's not like a student doesn't read it, but sometimes students will look it over or glance at it really quickly and they misinterpret what the question is asking for, or they don't pay attention to specific details. When we're watching the show The Amazing Race, I always find it remarkable that it will say certain things on the actual clue that they have that they don't pay attention to, and so they don't have them. So it will say, bring your stuff with you, and they forgot to bring their stuff. Or it says, make sure you hook up this, and they didn't do that. So read the question. That is the most important part, is that you read it very carefully so that you are giving the answer that it is asking for, or answers. With that in mind, you may have to number the parts. There may be several parts to this question. It may be a three-part question. And if you answer two parts to a three-part question, then you're not answering all the questions. And so you're not going to get the grade that's appropriate for what you're answering. So you want to go through and kind of number the parts. Sometimes it's easy. Each sentence is a part. Sometimes you may have multiple things asked in the same sentence. So just go through and number, and that way you know how many answers am I giving for this particular essay. The next thing is to underline key phrases. So what is it asking for? Is it asking you to explain? Is it asking you to define? Is it asking you to analyze? There are lots of different things. Those are the verbs. So you can underline or circle the verbs if you want. That tells you what level it's at. And then there's the actual content that you have to answer. So if you had a question that asked you, analyze the Constitution is the information that you have to provide and what you've learned about the Constitution. And then you may have to analyze that. Make sure that you understand what it is asking. Read it several times to yourself in your head. Make sure that you are getting a clear picture on what it's asking of you and that you're giving the correct answer. So what I mean by correct answer is not a right or wrong answer, but there is a correct way to approach. A lot of times people would just start writing whatever's in the top of their head. And this is not always the best methodology, because what ends up happening is you ramble, or you're not very concise in your essay. The next thing, think before you write. So before you put pencil to paper, you need to consider a lot of things. So first off, if it's open note, you might want to organize your notes and circle or highlight things that you're going to use for your essay. If it's not open note, you want to organize your thoughts. What do you remember? What concepts do you want to share? What examples do you want to give? Kind of organize all that. I've seen this from time to time. Students will just copy exactly what was in their notes onto the essay. Teachers want this to be in your own words. They want to see that you understand this, not that you can copy something down, but that you have a good understanding of this. So make sure that you're putting it in your own words and that you're paraphrasing what your notes have to say. You want to get an idea of what you want to answer, and then where's the evidence to provide that answer. So if it's asking a question and you need 3 pieces of evidence to prove that, then you need to go find those either in your notes or in your head, what those 3 pieces are going to be, and why are you sharing those 3 pieces? What are there better examples? Are there more effective ones? So you have to weigh that. And so don't start writing your essay until you're ready to answer. So until you've done this thinking beforehand, don't start writing. So when you are handed an essay, your first inclination should not be to start putting pencil to paper. Your first inclination should be to organize your thoughts. This is going to make for a much more organized and a much better essay than you would write if you were just doing it off the top of your head. The next thing is make sure you're clear in your explanation. There is a huge difference between what makes sense in your head and then what you communicate on a piece of paper. Um, Making that transition from what it looks like in your head to that piece of paper can be sometimes really tricky. So what you have to make sure that you're doing is it detailed enough that it's clear to someone else reading about it who knows nothing about this. So don't assume that the teacher is the audience and they already know this information. Assume it's someone that doesn't know this information or this answer. How would you explain it to them so that it made sense to them? How much detail would you have to give to make sure that it's clear to them? Whenever you write a sentence, always ask the question why. So I always tell students, when you put a period, the first thing you should think in your head is why. So if you say the Constitution is a great document, think in your head why, then explain. The Constitution is a great document because of it runs our country. Why is that important? So, and continue to go. So just asking why as much as possible until you have run out of whys. But to be thorough, you want to make sure that you're addressing all of those, because teachers don't just want the what or the who or the where. They want the why as well. They want you to make that connection to what it is that you're answering. So again, the way that you need to kind of put your mindset is that, would someone who knows nothing about this topic understand it the way that you just explained it in your essay? If the answer is no, then you need to put more detail in, or more evidence, or more examples. So you need to make sure that you are being really clear in your explanation. As always, find evidence to back up your statements. You're basically a lawyer when you're writing this essay, and you're making a case for your answer. So first, a lawyer doesn't get up and say, I think my client's innocent because I just think so. No, they have to present evidence, whether it's eyewitnesses or videos or documents, anything like that, evidence to back up that this person would be innocent. Same thing with your essay. You want to make sure that you find evidence, and usually this is in the form of research, that backs up statements that you're making. So if you say, this country is really bad when it comes to its economy, what evidence do you have to back that up? Could you look at its GDP? Could you look at its poverty rate? Could you look at things like that? And that data will act as evidence to back up your statement. I always use the rule of thumb of 3 examples. As always, if a student can give me 3 examples of something, 3 pieces of evidence to show me they understand it, then they have a really good understanding. So don't just put one and think that that's good enough. You kind of want to over-explain yourself. Remember, it's really important to include those key terms. So when you're writing about something, continually bring it back to the key term. What's in the question that's being asked? Make sure that term is used often throughout the essay, so that you make sure that the reader is understanding that. And then you want to make sure to explain your examples clearly and how it fits with the statement. So your answer is kind of your thesis statement. And then everything else is evidence that backs up this thesis statement. So is every example you're writing tied back to this thesis? If it doesn't, you don't need it. But if you got to make sure that it does match in order to have an effective essay. Remember to ATQ. This is answer the question. So when you are done with your essay, you want to reread the question and then reread the answer to make sure it is addressing everything that's been asked in that essay. So reread it and say, okay, there were 3 parts to it. I have 3 parts in my answer. Or if you say there are 5 parts, I only have 4 parts, I'm missing one, then you have to go back and revise. But you don't want to turn in like your first draft. You want to look over that essay to make sure that you've answered what it's asked you to answer. Does the question and the answer make sense together? So does one lead into the other? Is it a natural progression that here's a question, here is an answer that clearly covers that? Or is there confusion in your essay that causes one not to make that connection? You should not include anything in your essay that doesn't answer the question. So you may share a personal story about something, but it has nothing to do with answering the question. And so don't include it. Or if you have a fun fact that has nothing to do with it, don't just put it in there for the sake of putting it in there. Make sure that anything you put in there is answering the question. So, to review, you want to read the question first. Be very clear on that. And you can number it, you can underline, you can do all sorts of things to that question before you get started. Then you want to think about, what is my answer going to be? What is my evidence going to be? Where am I going to find that? Be clear in your explanation. So make sure that someone who knows nothing about it could understand it. And it helps to find evidence to back up your statements. This makes a case for your answer. It makes it more legitimate. And always remember to answer the question. So I'm going to leave you with this essay. I want you to give this a try. No matter what age you are, I want you to say what your favorite color is, but more importantly, I want you to explain why it's your favorite color. So use detail and examples. Use evidence to back up why it's your favorite color. It may be your opinion, but you still have reasons why you chose that color. Make sure you have that evidence in there. How many parts to this question? How are you going to approach this? Is there one color that might be easier for you to write on than another color? Lots of things to consider. This is what this might look like. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to break down the question. What is your favorite color and why? So we're going to look at the verbs. We've got a what. The first thing it's asking us to do. And it's also asking us why. And this is about the favorite color. So we're going to answer what the favorite color is and why the favorite color is. So now I'm going to spend some time thinking about this essay and how I'm going to approach this. And there are various ways to approach it. But I'm going to think about what color. So I like green, I like gray, I like red. There's all sorts of colors that I like. Which one do I think I can come up with the best examples for? Which one do I think I can best answer this question with? So I'm looking for my evidence and seeing that I can make an argument for whatever stance I take. Whatever color I choose, I have to be able to back that up with evidence. So I consider those things. So I might want to write down notes. So I'm going to green, baseball field, I have lime, bubble gum. I have, if I look at gray, I have my first car. I have, if I'm looking at red, I'm looking at Christmas. I have the possibility of favorite baseball team. And so you can see, like, I'm struggling to come up with something for the gray. So maybe the gray is not the best idea because I'm struggling. So I'm between green and red. And one thing I can't do is I can't choose both. It's asked for a color, a singular. So I have to pick one of these. So I'm going to go ahead and go with the green. And so now that I've made that decision and I've found some evidence, I'm going to state the question. My favorite color is green. I stated, I've answered the first part. I've done number one already. It's all asked was for the what, and I've stated the what. But this then becomes the thesis for the rest of my essay. So now I've got to answer the why, always coming back to green. So I would say there are many reasons why green is my favorite color. Now I go, why? Well, why are there many reasons? Well, how many of those? So I would say here are 3 of them. So I've identified 3 that I'm going to include here. So now I'm saying, okay, now I've made this statement. Now I have to come up with 3 examples. So baseball fields, the color green because of the grass. But then the question becomes, why does this make it my favorite color? I really like the sport of baseball and have spent a lot of time watching baseball games. So seeing green gives me a good feeling. So now I've explained the why. I could continue. I could say, why does it give me a good feeling? And I could continue on there and give more details there. But at some point, you do have to come to, like, I've answered enough whys to be able to answer this question without over answering it. So then I have a second reason. And I need a transition there. I need to make sure that I'm letting them know I'm on my second one. The second reason, this is called a transition. Why green is my favorite color is, and then I could talk about it is the color of lime green bubblegum, which was always my favorite flavor. So then I would say, why was it my favorite flavor? It was my favorite flavor because of the sourness, not as sour as lemon. Now, I can continue going on and on about the taste of the gum and everything like that, but then I'm starting to get away from my main question, which is why green is my, so I need to get back to the why of answering the question. So ATQ, answering the question. I have fond memories getting a lime green bubblegum from the machine, as I was always wishing to get that color. So now I've answered that question a second time. And then what I would do next, of course, is then I would answer a third one. So the third reason green is my favorite color, and you would fill in those blanks. And then you don't just stop. So I've answered the question because it asked what my favorite color is, and I stated it was green. And then I explained why, and I gave 3 reasons. Now I need to bring it all to a head. I need to kind of summarize it in a conclusion. So these 3 reasons: baseball field, lime green bubblegum, and whatever my third reason is. I would say these 3 reasons: baseball field, lime green bubblegum, and whatever that was, make green my favorite color. So I've answered the question again, just in case there was any doubt. I've explained. Now here's the evidence I gave you, and this is what makes green my favorite color. So now you don't want to. Some people will want to say, "Thank you for reading this." These are not necessary. So what we have to do now is we need to go back and check the question and the answer and see that we're matching them, that they were answering them. So the first one was, what is your favorite color? My favorite color is green. That is answered. Why is it your favorite color? I have 3 reasons: baseball fields, lime green bubblegum, and so on and so forth. So, and then I have a conclusion: these 3 reasons: baseball fields, lime green, and put this in my first car, make green my favorite color. And I would have had to have explained that. So I go back over and look. I look for spelling, I look for grammar, but most importantly, I look to see that I've answered the question. And so you can see in this particular case, I have answered that question. So you might have thought that a question like this would have elicited maybe a sentence or 2 of information. But you can see I was able to add a lot of detail to this and really bring it to life and really give you a good explanation as to why this is my favorite color.